Hey there, welcome back to Sound Just Like a Pro. My name is William, and I'm going to be discussing today in this video the Focusrite Scarlett series, specifically the ones I have experience with, which is the Scarlett 2i2 and the Scarlett 18i20. And if you stick around to the end of this video, you'll know everything that I love and everything that I don't love about this series of interfaces from Focusrite. But before we get too deep into the interface, I want to give you a free resource. It's an ebook called EQ Basics, Your Blueprint to a Better Mix. And in this book, I've broken down every instrument or every type of vocal that you'll encounter while mixing music. Then I've given you the root frequency and the overtones and the undertones, so there's no more guessing. It's a paint by numbers chart to find and boost and cut anything that you'll need to make your mix better from an equalization standpoint. And I want to give that to you for free at doitjustlikeapro.com/EQ book. So here we are. Let's get into this interface. This is the Focusrite Scarlett 18i20. This is the second generation, actually. There are pros and cons, and unfortunately, the pros are far surpassed by the cons of this particular device, in my opinion. And if you have one and love it, that's fine. I'd love to know why you love it. So definitely comment below if you'd like to, but I'm going to tell you what I like about it right now. So what I like about it is that it's beautiful. Like, it's literally Scarlett, and it's pretty awesome. If looks were what it's about, there's a lot of stuff that would be awesome, but it's not. In addition to it looking nice, it also feels good. The knobs are nice and tight. The buttons are nice and tight. There's nothing that rattles. There's nothing that's weird about it. Everything seems to function from a tactile standpoint exactly as it should, which that's an amazing thing in today's market of cheaper, like, disposable electronics. That is a massive win for this particular guy. And so you have your two combo units up front, that's XLR and TRS. So you can plug in an instrument or a microphone or whatever, and it's right there on the front ready to go, and you have your other 6 inputs in the back. And on inputs 1 and 2, you have instrument level or line level, or you have the XLR or the mic level input, and then you also have a pad, and you have the ability to turn on phantom power on channels 1 through 4, 5 through 8, with the buttons right here on the front of the mixer, and you have VU meters for all the inputs. One of the other cool things is you have 2 separate monitor outputs. If you're tracking with someone else and you want a separate headphone volume, you have that right here on the front. You have monitor 1 and monitor 2. And another cool feature on the face of this guy is you have an actual passive monitor control so that you can adjust the volume of your studio monitors right here on the front without any sort of extra hardware or anything like that. And there's also a monitor mute button, so you can turn off the monitors and leave the volume exactly where it was and just mute it. Another cool feature is a dim feature. So a lot of people like mixing at low volumes, so you can have your client level, you know, where you crank it through the roof and really feel the bass and things like that. But if you want to mix and save your ears over the duration of an entire session, you have the dim button, so you can dim it down. And I think that's about a 20 decibel cut right out of the top of it. It's a flat response cut that just lowers the volume at the touch of a button rather than rolling the knob. Really solid feature. So here's the thing, like, all these good features, the fact that it feels good, the fact that it looks nice, the fact that it has everything that you think you might need, none of that matters. Those are all pros, but none of that matters to me because it doesn't sound good. So it sounds cheap. And so you should know I originally bought this not even for the input category. Like, I wasn't even remotely planning on inputting anything into a DAW with this device at all. I bought it for the output capabilities because I was running a lot of tracks in the band I was playing with at the time, and I didn't want just a stereo 2-track output. I wanted to be able to make a session in Ableton or Logic or something like that with buses where I could route whole vocal groups or whole guitar groups or whole drum groups or keys, anything like that. I wanted to have parachute channels on the board where you could actually, as a sound person, you could roll in and out whole sections at a time rather than just a master left and right or just mono signal like a lot of people do it. But I mean, for what I bought it for, it worked for a really long time, and it works like that now, and it does a really awesome thing when you use it like that. But the problem is I had this laying around and I was like, you know, this is newer and it's nicer, quote unquote, than the interface that I was currently using, because I was using an old ART TubeFire, which you don't really see much of those anymore. I don't know why they didn't catch on, but it was a Firewire interface that had 8 in, 8 out, and it had Class A preamps, and it did sound incredible, but it was never quite right. I bought it back in 2007. And occasionally it would like lose buffer or something and do this weird like screech sound. And so like it worked. And I recorded my band's album on it. I've recorded endless amounts of voiceovers or demo tracks or anything like that. And it's been wonderful for a really long time. But I was like, man, I have the Scarlett. Why don't I get rid of this other thing? And because it ran off a FireWire 6, it's just old. So I retired the ART tube fire and I put the Scarlett in its place, and I immediately regretted my decision. Immediately, because the first time I had a voiceover to do, I got the call for this voiceover and they sent over the script. And so I pulled it up and I went to track with the Scarlett thinking, man, it's as good as the other one. And I don't have the weird buffer thing and it's going to be great. And then I realized it just does not sound good. It doesn't sound good. So I tweaked a lot of equalization and I tweaked a lot of compressors and limiters and I put some reverb on the track and I did a lot of things to try to bring out the depth and the clarity and just the goodness that I had lost. And like always, before I sent it off to the casting director, I brought my wife in here, because I always have her check my pronunciation or how it sounds and just the feel of it. And I turned around after playing it and she had this weird face and I couldn't really figure out what the face was. So I asked her and she's like, well, your voice, like what you did sounds cool, but why does the thing sound so cheap? Like, why does it just sounds like you recorded it on your phone or something from across the room? Like, it just sounds thin. And it's cool that my wife is learning all these words. So like that was a heart drop moment because my tube fire was already sold on eBay and shipped to New Jersey or somewhere. And it was out of my life. And I was stuck with the Scarlett for the time being. And I knew it wasn't right. And I was trying to hide it. And my wife, she's got a good ear for things, but I didn't think that she would say that, and so she just came out of the gate swinging with, why does it sound cheap? And so I've recorded several things since then, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. And it's perfect for what I bought it for, but what I'm trying to use it for now, I don't like it. And I started breaking down kind of where I was at with this device. And I remembered that my brother actually has owned 2 of the Scarlett 2i2s, and he uses that for the studio monitor control feature, and he plugs his bass right into the front of it, and it's cool for that. But his burn out after a while, and it just doesn't work on channel 1 or 2 on the input. The monitor control still works, but he needed it to work, so we bought another one. And he actually doesn't even use that all the time as the sound card for his computer anymore. When he actually needs to play his bass or track something or rehearse or anything like that, he pulls out the 2i2, plugs it in, uses it, and then unplugs it because he doesn't want it to break again. And that's so sad to me. And I have a really good friend from my hometown who is actually responsible in part for me being the musician I am today because he's just incredible. And I respect his opinion on music and on mixing and just the way things work and gear and things like that. He actually asked me about a year ago for recommendations. He's like, man, I need a little interface to plug in my guitar to my computer. Tell me the best thing I need to buy that's not a Scarlett. And I was like, well, that's weird. And so all these little things, like isolated from each other, they don't really add up to anything individually, but you start to put them together and you realize, well, man, I don't like the 18i20 for its recording purposes. My friend Solomon doesn't like it for his guitar. My brother is on his second unit that he's bought to record his bass with. So I asked my friend Keith, who actually co-authored the book that I told you about earlier, the EQ Basics book, because I know he has a Scarlett 2i2 at his house. And he mixes for everybody from Billie Eilish to Poison to Joan Jett, all sorts of people. Like he's got a rather lengthy list of credits. He has a 2i2 sitting on his desk at home. And I asked him about it the other day and he was like, oh no, I would never record with that. I use it for my monitor control, for my studio monitors, for the volume. And so my heart sunk even further, obviously, because he records with something else and just uses that at his house for monitor control. So it's just, if you're looking for something on a pro level, this is just not it. If you want to stake your reputation as a musician on sounding amazing, then maybe the Scarlett line isn't for you. If you need something to drive monitors or drive, like I'm doing, like playback tracks or something, split them up in groups, multiple outputs, that kind of thing. It's perfect. It just doesn't sound good on the input. Unfortunately, that's just, I mean, that's it. That's the deal. Like it's not super awesome. But there is somewhat of a silver lining. Focusrite has a software that controls these devices called Focusrite Control. And that software does look really awesome. Like it looks amazing. And the way that you can route things in and out and do separate mixes and buses and things like that, it's just like a DAW or just like setting up a live mixer. And you can really get a lot of extra things out of this particular unit. The one that I have, the rack mounted one, with all the extra ins and outs, you can really do something awesome with that. But ultimately, it doesn't really matter. Still, I think I said this before, but it doesn't really matter if it can do a little bit of everything if what you're doing with it doesn't sound good. And maybe through their control app, maybe there is some sort of secret sauce or secret weapon or magic bullet, whatever thing you want to use there. Maybe they have something that can get a little more juice out of this thing and a little more professionalism. And I hope I find it. I'm about to start digging into that to see if I can figure that out. But I don't know, because I mean, ultimately, if you can do a lot more routing and things like that, it still doesn't matter. Like you're just routing bad sound further places, like more places, and it just doesn't matter to me. And all of that is so sad, because for the price that you pay for this unit, I mean, there are things that do sound really great, maybe for a little more, or maybe around the same price range. I'm actually going to put a list below in the description section of this video with a lot of interfaces that I would recommend over this one. Like Neve actually just came out with a little thing that would replace the 2i2, which it's a lot more expensive than the 2i2. It's about $1,200, but it's a Neve and it has all of their preamps and all of their circuitry involved in there. And I mean, if you make a bad recording with that, you just maybe shouldn't be doing this. I don't know. That's not true. I don't know. Like, I'd probably make bad recordings with it too. But for a little desktop thing, like that's probably going to be my go-to in the near future for music recording. So thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for making it to this point in the video and really digging in and trying to make sure that this gear that you're looking for is right for you or not right for you. And I'm here not trying to throw shade on anybody. I'm not out here trying to bash anybody's stuff. I just don't want somebody thinking that they can get a Scarlett of any variety and it do what it needs to do professionally for them, because I don't think at this point that it can. And I'm trying to save you from the same mistake that I made, ultimately, is what it boils down to. I wish somebody would have said, you know, the Scarlett doesn't really sound all that great when I was thinking about buying this, on the off chance that one day I might need it to record, which now I do. So I wish somebody would have told me, so now I'm telling you. So again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being a part of what we're doing here at Sound Just Like a Pro. If you will, check out the list below this video in the description section of all the interfaces that I do recommend. That's doitjustlikeapro.com/EQ book, or click on the link in the description section of this video, wherever that is on your machine, off to the side, down below, wherever it is, grab it, get it, read it, love it. I hope it helps you so much. So until next time, get out there and sound just like a pro. Thanks so much. We'll see you soon.